So how many solar panels do you have?
There's 24, total of 24 panels, and you can, they're arranged kind of like a jigsaw puzzle all over to fit the roof.
Why 24?
That was the size that was recommended by the installer for a family of 4 to bring your electric bill down close to 0, but not exceeding that. You don't want to create more electricity than you typically use in a year.
And how low is your electric bill?
Well, it kind of varies depending on the weather and who's home in my house, but it can go from about $50 down to about $30 a month. I think everybody's familiar with these. These are 3 solar hot water panels. And again, there's 3 panels, about 3 feet by 8 feet. And that's, recommended for a family of 4. Then I think something that a lot of people recognize is what they call a solar fan. And that's a little solar powered venting fan, which pulls hot air out of the top of your house and expels it. And it's run by this is a photoelectric panel right there. So it runs just when the sun is running, the sun is out, and which is exactly when you need it. Something like that. I don't know what that is.
Okay, and that?
Okay, and this thing, these are also, they're kind of a variation on a skylight. It's called a solar tube, but what's kind of neat about them is that they take the light into a really polished reflective tube, and they take it down deep into your house wherever you want to go with it. So I actually have 2 of these, and one of them goes straight down into a closet right below this, and then I got another one over there, I think you can see in the distance, and that one goes all the way down to my first floor over a stairwell that was really dark. And so it's in a long tube, I'd say it's about 8 feet long, and it's really reflective, and so the sunlight gets channeled down through that, and then it glows like a skylight at the bottom. So that's another real inexpensive way to use the sun for light without getting a lot of heat in your house. I'm an architect. I was trained at the University of Hawaii and graduated in '84, and I've been practicing on my own since about 1993. And this is, I guess, my 3rd house, and this is the house, though, that I really wanted to try and add in some of the energy features that I've been kind of telling my clients about, and I wanted to try them out on my own house. And especially on an older house, a lot of clients say, oh, I got a historic home, what can I do? I'm afraid green building features are too high tech and they won't match the house. And what I was trying to show you up there on the roof is that there's a lot of things that can be put into an older house. They don't have to be visible, or they can be incorporated into a roof somewhere on the top. And
you can't see them from the road.
No, absolutely none of that is visible. That was required by the Historic Sites Department when I applied for a permit for these things. They asked for pictures from the street. Would this affect the street front character of the house? And I assured them that no, none of this is visible. So it takes a little bit of extra work, but it can be done. And an older home uses a lot of electricity. Some of them are quite large, and so you've got to just look for any kind of energy-saving features that you can.
So why did you go with 5 systems?
5 systems is really, it's like I added them on. I've had the house now for 10 years, and I started simple with the skylight, and you can see behind you how high that high roof is, and that's why I had to do that the hinged skylight, because there was no way to get up to that top roof. But I started with a skylight, I started with a solar fan. These are inexpensive things. They're $200–300. And then as I decided to stay in the house, I added more expensive things. First came the solar hot water, and that's about $5,000. And then you can get into solar electric systems, and those are more depending on, in my case, I could use a business tax credit because I have a home business. So that's business equipment on my roof, and it has a very generous tax credit. The Prebbles are really the ones that gave me the idea for my system, because those, as you know, they are really ardent conservationists. They've dedicated their whole life to being very prudent with resources, and I was really inspired by working with them. What they had hired me to do were really architectural spaces, and the systems that they ended up putting on there were their idea. They did the research, they found the vendors that were selling those systems, and I was so impressed working on their house that I turned around and did it on my own. But yeah, this is an all-new yard of about 9 months. So everything's still pretty small, but this was partly grew out of my desire to be more green even in my landscaping. I used to have a much bigger lawn, if you can believe it, and I have slowly trimmed it back, cut it away, scalloped away the edges, and added more ground cover because I just didn't want to be watering and cutting and fertilizing as much.
Okay.
If it's useful, because this is just another example of an experiment where I'm trying out some energy conservation techniques on my own house in order that I can better explain them to my clients. And what we call this thing is it's a polyester mesh solar screen that blocks 90% of the sun's heat and sunlight. So as you can see, I'm on this lanai and I'm facing right into the west sun. So on a typical day in Hawaii, by this time of day, it's bright, you know, late afternoon sunshine. It's very hot. So what I've decided to put in my own house are these automatic roll-down screens, and you can see them in the rolled-up position. They're up in the roof, and they drop down. They use a sensor, and when the sun is shining on in the day, these things are motorized, and they will drop down on these stainless steel cables, which you see over there on that post, and they drop all the way down to the floor, and they look like this. From the outside, they look fairly dark and opaque, but in fact, when you're inside, you can look right through them, and you still have a view out. So I consider this a form of energy conservation because this blocks all the heat that would normally enter my house in the afternoon. And then as soon as the sun goes down over the mountain over there, these things are retracted. They're motorized, and they go and they recoil right back up into the roof. So they're meant to work every day, drop down, come up again, and keep my house really cool. So I don't need to use air conditioning or even ceiling fans. The idea, and again, I'm using my own house as a sort of a guinea pig because it's I don't want to necessarily recommend something that I don't have personal experience with. So this is just a piece of the cloth, and again, it looks fairly dark, but when I turn it this way and to the light, I can see everything perfectly clearly.